It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. It could be you, it could be me, it could be everything we see. Given the day, given the time, given the moment. Some of it comes.
Don't lie around like the winter snow.
Bring into NCTV45.
Hi, welcome to Focus NC on NCTV45. This is host Matthew Geiger from the Washington Outsider. Come visit us for our latest take on the news of the day that affects you, www.washingtonoutsider.org. Well, today we want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's been going on in Newcastle. As we all know, Jameson Hospital announced plans that it will close the maternity ward on September 1st. Now, unfortunately, the story is that Jameson is having trouble recruiting doctors. Now, for all of us who have really been watching this is not much of a surprise. We also know Jameson's been struggling financially, which is true of a lot of small community hospitals throughout the country. We also know there's been a lot of issues going on in Jameson for years. And again, small community hospitals have been affected throughout the country, throughout the Commonwealth. But nonetheless, it still makes us very uneasy, unsettling. Jameson accounts for over 1,000 jobs in the network. We also know a few months ago there was hope, and there was a lot of people figured that it would be everything would just be okay, that because there was a UPMC merger. Well, that merger was put on hold. There has been a lot of changes at Jameson, and of course the maternity ward's a very negative one. We still don't know what the future holds. We're hopeful. We also know throughout the community that the city's financially, it's been struggling for decades. There's a large debt. The mayor has been trying to pay down that debt. There's also retirement funds issues that will be coming up soon that will raise the contribution rates, which is to cause a lot of problems. At the same time, we also know throughout the community there's been a lot of issues. Obviously, there's income disparity, wage issues. There's also ripple effects from the financial crisis. And with all that news out there, it's very tempting to be negative, to focus, doom and gloom. And that gets in the mentality, that gets in your mind. And even the most optimistic person, eventually, that pulls them down. That makes them feel like there's no way out. But you know, when you have situations like this, it's not just about focusing on the positive. The positive news is important, but we can't ignore these problems. We have to deal with them. And I think one of the things that's really driving on the unsettlement is kind of a lack of responsiveness, a lack of knowledge. A lot of the community, I think, feels as though people aren't giving us the whole story of what they know. And without the whole story, we feel very insecure from a lack of information. We also don't feel as though we have any power. I mean, I think we've talked about this on Focus NC, on the Washington Outsider. Angelo's talked about this on Newswatch and his various programs. There really needs to be more of a community engagement, more responsiveness, so we can feel like we have an understanding of what's going on, so we don't feel so helpless. And with that in mind, again, we can't just focus on the negative. What we have to do is focus on how we can fix the negative. It's not just about the only point in paying attention to something negative, the only point in dealing with it is to solve it. And that has to happen, because as long as those negatives persist, as long as this bad news consistently comes up, we're going to be plagued by it. But it does no good just obsessing over it, and looking for that negativity. Remember, the first step in problem solving is identifying the problem. Of course, the first step in whining and making excuses is also identifying the problem. It's what you do next. It's taking the next step. And the next step is really understanding the problem. And then looking at, well, is it as bad as we think? What is it good going on? And how can we deal with this? Piece by piece. You know, anyone can see there's a problem. That's true. But not everyone understands the problem. Certainly not the true extent of the problem. And that's what needs to happen when we deal with negativities. So we need to take a little break to hear from our local sponsors. And when we get back, we'll continue this conversation.
The Crane Room is a restaurant. The Crane Room is a bar. The Crane Room is a banquet facility. The restaurant will please you time after time with their diverse menu. Ask about their daily specials. See the menu at craneroom.com. The bar gives you an abundance of choices with 35 beers on tap and always changing. Their banquet services are always to perfection. The Crane Room, located at 3009 Wilmington Road in Neshannock Township. Call 724-656-1553.
Joshua Sun Rehabilitation Center. From the moment you arrive, you know that you're in the right place. Dr. John Wrightson listens first. He pays attention to detail and then makes the determination. Joshua Sun Rehabilitation. We make the pain go away.
Hi, welcome back to NCTV45. This is Focus NC with host Matthew Geiger from the Washington Outsider. Visit us at www.washingtonoutsider.org for our latest take on the news. Today we're talking about some of the negatives going on. Jameson Hospital announced it's closing its maternity ward effective September 1st, which really concerns people. There's obviously people having babies is a serious business, and that obviously creates a real issue, especially if you live in one of the more distant places, and it's going to be harder for you to get access, especially if you have affordability of issues of calling an ambulance or being able to transport, having your own car or someone who can take you to the hospital. As it is, Jameson, there were some horror stories of women walking in with babies crowning already. So this is very sad news. And of course, the maternity ward, I think from what I've gathered of the community it's the thing that people really praise Jameson on. And that of course gets to the bigger concerns of Jameson. And not only is it part of the community, it's a major employer. It's your health. That's a major issue. And, it's been part of the community for, as long as anyone can remember. And people remember things in Newcastle the way they were decades ago. That's how people see it. But so this negativity, but it's not just about focusing on the negativity anymore. You can't, this is bad news. We're unsettled. We're concerned. We're trying to understand what's going on every day. Is it going to close? Is the whole hospital in danger? Is it just the maternity ward? Those are questions that kind of are circling all of our brains. And we'd love to hear some more security on that, but we want to know how to solve problems. And of course, it's not just about Jameson. The whole city's had issues. But we can't just focus on the negative for the sake of focusing on the negative. If we go back, there's a lot of positive stuff that's happened just throughout this summer. For example, the fireworks festival. For those who were able to go, and I wasn't, unfortunately, I was there in the morning, but not during the fireworks. I had some other events that I had previously been needed to attend, but the people who were able to go, including staff here at NCTV 45, loved it. They had a great time. Now, unfortunately, before the festival started, there was some fighting. There was also a perch snatching. Okay, but that doesn't mean that defined the whole thing. That wasn't this break, you know, this the win or fail aspect of this event, this community event. This event was about bringing people to community. You know what? Perch snatching, fighting, it happens throughout the whole country. The entire country has these issues. There is not a city that hasn't had to deal with someone stealing. At the same, you know, but the police were there. They took care of it. People were arrested. Issues were taken care of. Issues were taken care of. Everything was taken care of. That's the point, is that was the problems, there was a problem, was it solved? Yes, it was solved. So why are we dwelling on the negative? The bigger story of the fireworks festival was the fireworks festival, and it went well. And that's the kind of thing the community needs to focus on. The media sources need to focus on. If we watch the news, we can find negativity anywhere and everywhere. It's just that easy. It doesn't any good. The only reason we focus on the negative is to solve the problem, if there is a problem. If the problem was solved by the police, okay, you mention it, and then you move on to what the great stuff was. You don't even need to be in the headline. They have police blotters for that reason. And so that's kind of where the situation we have in Newcastle is. We need to get away from that obsessiveness going towards what's going wrong. Yes, we need to tackle the wrongs. We need to say, hey, we know there's issues with Jameson. We know there's issues with the city budget. We know there's issues with the economy. I mean, you'd have to be pretty blind not to see it. But that doesn't mean we have to obsess over it. It's not the only thing going on in Newcastle. It's not the only thing going on in this community. There are things that are happening that are great. And when there are issues, when we do talk about them, we need to talk about how to solve them. You know, right now, the state's held up the Jameson deal, but you know what? Okay, that hurts our community. We need to write letters to the state saying, hey, to the Wolf administration, we need you, this Jameson either needs to be solved through the UPMC or another deal. This needs to be taken care of. Take action. Solve the problem. Don't just be like, it's doom and gloom. We're going to lose all these jobs. We're going to have issues. We're going to not have health care. That is not what this community needs. The community needs solutions. The community needs leadership. Well, we need to stop and take a little moment here to hear from some of our local sponsors, which NCTV45 does its best to help promote. And, you know, of course, they're part of the community. They're part of the community brand. And when we're right back, we'll discuss about some more of how we can look at the negatives in this community and make them into a positive.
The Cedars is a great restaurant with outstanding Mediterranean food. The Cedars takeout menu is second to none, featuring pizza, stromboli, hoagies, their famous lamb on the rod, and so much more. So when you're hungry and you want that Newcastle taste, make it Cedars. Now with 2 locations in Newcastle, 827 Addis Street on the east side and 1101 Highland Avenue. Call Cedars East 724-658-9260 or Cedars North 724-652-7657.
If you're craving hot dogs and more, and you're in the area, then look no farther than Coney Island, downtown Newcastle on Kennedy Square.
Welcome back to Focus NC on NCTV 45. This is host Matthew Geiger from the Washington Outsider. Come visit us for our latest take on the news, www.washingtonoutsider.org. And today we're kind of talking about the negatives in the community of Newcastle and how we don't just need to obsess upon those negatives. We need to be constructive. If we're just obsessing over the community, we're being destructive. The community doesn't need torn down. It has enough issues. And that's when you take a look at NCTV 45. it exists to enhance the community. It exists to help brand the community. We've had New Visions in here and some other organizations, and they've talked about what is the Newcastle brand, identifying the Newcastle brand. Well, you know, NCTV45 as a television station is part of that. You have to remember, Angelo Perrotta started this station a couple years ago for the sole purpose of bringing to light the positive aspects of the community. But part of that's also involved looking at the negatives and finding constructive solutions. It means tackling the stuff that's being negatively said and solving that, doing problem solving, not just obsessing over it. Like I said, that's destructive. What does constructive mean? It means you take a negative, you analyze it, you say, what is the real problem here? Is there more than one problem? If so, what are some potential solutions? Have we tried these before? If we have, why have they succeeded? Have they failed? If they've failed, why have they failed? And that's part of the solution. It's about rallying people together. It's about bringing businesses together, people together, you know, all walks of life in Newcastle. It's a very diverse city, but people feel divided in this community. And what NCTV45 isn't here to just cater to one group or another. It's here to really look at, say, okay, what do you have to offer the city? How can we support each other? You know, when people sponsor NCTV45, they're helping us promote them. Yes, they're promoting themselves. But it's not just about promoting them. It's also about bringing out the community, supporting the community, helping brand the community. You know, people are concerned about a Jameson, but it's part of the community. They're also concerned about other media sources here. The newspaper, we know throughout the country newspapers have struggled. But here's the deal. Every community has a newspaper. Every community has a hospital. But that's not necessarily a brand. So it's not necessarily a brand, but what it is it's part of the community. And so when we talk about the negatives in the community, how can we solve them? Well, let's look at the overall problem in Newcastle. There needs to be a Newcastle revival. And a large part of that means branding Newcastle. Like I said, a lot of communities have hospitals. A lot of communities have newspapers. If not, they're nearby. Okay, they're important for jobs. They also have radio stations. They also have, you know, governments. These aren't necessarily brands. You know, yes, we have our own special brand of these things in our community, but we also have other things. We have Coney Highland hot dogs. We have fireworks. We have a rich history of China Shenango steel. We have the Hoyt. We have art. Those are the brand. Those together make the Newcastle brand. It's not one piece here or there, and let's be honest, a lot of communities have TV stations, a lot of successful, which is why Angelo started this station, because he saw that was part of the success, was that when you have a television, a radio, a news station focusing on the community and what's happening in it, you tend to get a more unified community, a more prosperous community that works together instead of instead of having people work against each other. That's not a community. A community is when people come together. And that's what NCTV45 is kind of been trying to do in its approach. We focus on the positive, and when there's negatives, we focus in on it in a constructive manner. How can we build instead of tear down? And that's really what needs to happen, is we need to get over this negativity in the community. There's bad things happening, bad things happen, communities, business cycles. Businesses fail all the time. They look on the verge of failing, and then they prop right back up, and they're one of the best businesses. Motorola, take Motorola as an example. It has gone through every few years as an issue where it could face bankruptcy. And of course, we all know they sell cell phones. But a couple years later, they're one of the best brands in the world. That's the business cycle, and we have to take that and deal with it. When when there's a problem, you fix it, and then it does well again. Or, we build something new. We build anew. And that's what needs to happen in Newcastle. We can't just get fixated on the negative. We have to face the negative in a way to solve it. And that's what NCTV45 has thrived to do. It's also looked at how can we enhance the other businesses. When you own a business, you don't want to just say, here I am, customers come find me. You basically want to show them that why you're important, why they should come. You want to invite them in. And that's part of what NCTV45 has done in Newcastle, is invite them in. And that's part of this constructive building of the community instead of this obsessive deconstructive focus on the negativity. And as we move forward, we see some rough patches coming in here in Newcastle, and we're still dealing with the old issues. But you know what? There's a lot of great things about this community. And as we move forward, let's focus on those, and let's deal with the negatives. Well, this has been Focus NC with host Matthew Geiger from the Washington Outsider. Come join us again later. And thank you for tuning in to NCTV 45.